The mist clung to Veilbrook like a shroud, seeping into Clara's lungs as she stepped off the rusted bus. The town hadn't changed, still the same crooked houses with splintered porches, the same sulphurous tang in the air. Her sister's suicide note had mentioned the mist. It watches through the fog, Clara. Its angles cut deeper than knives. The townsfolk greeted her with hollow eyes. Mr. Harlow, the butcher, grinned too wide as he handed her a key to her sister's cottage. "Best not wander after sundown," he said, his tongue flicking over blackened teeth. "The woods get restless." That night, Clara found Eliza's journal beneath a floorboard. Sketches filled the margins, spirals that hurt to look at, flesh fused with geometric horrors. The final entry was a single sentence, scrawled in what looked like charcoal, or dried blood. "They're feeding it again." The screams began at midnight. Clara followed them to the edge of the woods, where the trees twisted inward like broken ribs. A dozen figures in moth-eaten robes dragged something heavy into the shadows. Something pulsing. She pressed closer, her breath frosting in the unnatural cold, and saw it. The spindle. It hovered above a stone altar, a jagged rip in reality. Not a creature, but an absence, a nest of intersecting planes that fractured the moonlight into splinters. Its edges blurred and writhed, birthing geometries that clawed at her mind. The villagers chanted in guttural tones, their faces melting like wax as they flung a writhing sack into the spindle's core. The sack tore open midair. A stray cat spilled out, yowling as the spindle's angles sliced it into segments that continued to move, to scream, rearranging into a ghastly mosaic of flesh and bone. Clara vomited. The spindle rippled, sensing her. One of its edges, a shimmering blade of nothingness, rotated toward her. She fled, the villagers' laughter chasing her through the pines. By dawn, the butcher found her. "You saw the sacrament," he said, cleaver glinting. His left eye had swollen shut, the lid stitched with coarse twine. "The spindle hungers. Always has, since they dug it up in the silver mines. We keep it sated with small sacrifices, strays, wanderers. But your sister," he licked his lips. "Eliza tried to starve it. Now it's angry." Clara lunged for the door. Harlow moved faster, his arm elongating with a wet snap, fingers clamping her throat. "You'll do nicely," he hissed, breath reeking of rot. "The spindle prefers blood kin." They dragged her to the woods at dusk. The spindle had grown, its distorted halo now swallowing the treetops. The villagers' chants slithered into her skull, words that bent as they hit the air. Clara's vision blurred. The sky darkened, not to black, but to a sickly violet, stars winking into jagged slits like eyes. Harlow threw her onto the altar. The spindle descended, its edges singing a discordant hum. She glimpsed eternity in its core, a labyrinth of iridescent corridors, each filled with half-formed things that reached for her with too many joints. Her skin peeled back, revealing muscles that squirmed into fractal patterns. She tried to scream, but her jaw unhinged, stretching into a spiraling void. The spindle shuddered, consuming. When it finished, Veilbrook was gone. The woods, the houses, the people, all unraveled into threads of light, sucked into the spindle's ever-expanding gyre. Clara remained, her body a marionette of reconfigured bone and sinew. The spindle had left her eyes intact. A kindness, perhaps, so she could witness the new world coalescing around her, a realm of shimmering polygons and wailing shades, where the sky was a fractured mirror and the ground dissolved at every step. Somewhere in the distance, something vast and hungry stirred. It had tasted her lineage, her grief. Now it wanted more. Clara's mangled lips twisted into a smile. She began to chant.